Hello girlies, welcome to the habits webinar. I often talk about habits and how important it is to create a habit, but I just want to go into a little bit more detail about what habits actually are and why they're important. There's also a lot of information in there that I pulled from James Clear's website. He is the author of Atomic Habits, and if you haven't read it, or I did listen to it on an audiobook, please listen to it. It's so good and so interesting about how to create habits that stick. I would literally make this my habit and I would listen to the recording on my way to work and coming home from work, because I used to work on the Wirral. So it would take me 20 minutes to get to work, 20 minutes to get home, and I would just stick the audiobook on and listen to it, and it just went in my brain. It was great. So if anybody can read or listen to Atomic Habits, please do that. So there's some information in here pulled from his website. He's actually the king of habits. So let's get into it. Why are habits important and what are habits? So habits make up our daily regular tendencies or practices, whether that is making yourself a coffee in the morning, reading your book every evening, or biting your nails. Obviously, we have good and bad habits. These are all small habits that we've developed over the years or over the past few months. It's not something that happens quickly. It's a very long process to create a habit, which I'm going to go into in more detail. But we've subconsciously drilled these patterns into our brains, so they would be very difficult to remove from our daily lives without doing so purposefully. For example, if you were a nail biter like I was back in the day before I got my nails done, it's next to impossible to stop biting your nails. I'd get that nail varnish, I'd try anything to not bite my nails, but it's just a habit that you've literally got drilled in your brain. And a lot of habits are often connected to places or people or time of day. If you're someone who bites their nails in work, you're bored, you're in work, or maybe is constantly snacking in work or constantly doing something every time they're in work because they associate that habit with a place. So yeah, habits are important. How to create a habit. So the majority of our habits that we have today, we probably don't actually remember starting, but I guarantee you that you've had some new ones that you've consciously started since the beginning of our fitness journey, such as consciously planning your meals on a Sunday and prepping for the week, getting up earlier for a morning walk before work, which is, you're making these new habits become a part of your everyday life. Maybe you've been making sure to pack a pre-workout snack in your car or silencing your phone an hour before bed. These are all small habits that you've slowly started to create whilst starting this fitness journey. But what does it actually take to build a new habit? So here is some information that I pulled from James Clear's website. So I'll just read it out. A lady called Philippa is a health psychology research at University College London. In a study published in the European Journal of Social Psychology, Philippa and her research team decided to figure out how long it actually takes to form a habit, because there's a lot of incorrect information out there that it takes a month to build a habit, but this delved into why that's inaccurate. So the study examined the habits of 96 people over a 12-week period. Each person chose one new habit for 12 weeks and reported each day on whether or not they did the behaviour and how automatic the behaviour felt. Some people chose simple habits like drinking a bottle of water with lunch. Other people chose more difficult tasks like running 15 minutes before dinner. At the end of the 12 weeks, the researchers analysed the data to determine how long it took each person to go from starting a new behaviour to automatically doing it. And the answer was that on average, it takes more than 2 months to build a new behaviour until it becomes automatic, or around 66 days to be exact. You might have seen the Gymshark 66 challenge. That's because on average it takes around 66 days to have an automatic response to a habit that you've created. And how long it takes to build a new habit to form, take a new habit to form can vary widely depending on behaviour, the person and circumstances. In her study, it took anywhere from 18 to 254 days for people to form a new habit. And that is something that people often forget, is that's nearly a whole year that it's taken to build this one habit. In other words, if you want to set your expectations appropriately, the truth is that it will probably take you anywhere from 2 months to 8 months to build a new behaviour, not 21 days. So if you got to the end of a month and you've thought, fucking hell, this habit that I wanted to start is shit, it's not working, it's because you've not given it enough time. Interestingly, the researchers also found that missing one opportunity to perform the behaviour did not affect the habit formation process. So basically, it doesn't matter if you mess up now and then, Building better habits is not an all or nothing process. So you can miss days and it'll have absolutely no impact on whether or not you are going to establish a solid habit. So a great way of building a new habit is through habit stacking. And I've spoken to a few people about this before, but I personally use habit stacking for taking my vitamins or my creatine in particular. So habit stacking has been proven to be a great way to implement a new habit into our lives. It's the theory of using a pre-existing habit or habits, taking advantage of the patterns already drilled into our brain and introducing a new habit that is performed alongside the current one. The more we repeat a pattern of behaviour, the stronger the neurons in our brain become to that one pattern. For example, if you played an instrument, the brain constantly establishes stronger neuron connections. The more you play, the better you're going to get, the quicker and the more automatic it's going to be to you. Hence the phrase, practice makes perfect. Again, the reason habit stacking works so well is that your current habits are already built into your brain. You have patterns and behaviours that have been strengthened over years. And by linking your new habits to a cycle that is already built into your brain, you make it more likely to stick to that new behaviour. And this is something I've used myself. I have porridge every single day without fail. Porridge is my favourite breakfast. I have it because I fucking love it. And you can make it whatever you want it to be. You can have peanut butter, Nutella, anything. I love porridge. I am a porridge advocate. So I was going through a phase of having my creatine in a glass of water in the morning. I don't have a glass of water in the morning. So essentially, I am not stacking my creatine habit with something that I already had pre-existing. So I have now been putting my creatine in my porridge because I put protein powder in my porridge anyway, and my creatine sits right next to my protein powder. So I'm stacking a habit that I already have, my habit of eating porridge every day. I wouldn't miss it because I just love it, with having my creatine. So I'll never forget, I literally put two and two together. They are literally sat next to each other in the shelf. So I have my creatine in my porridge and I'll never miss a day of taking my creatine. This is also taken from James Clear's website, so I'll just read it out. No matter how you use this strategy, the secret to creating a successful habit stack is selecting the right cue to kick things off. Unlike an implementation intention, which specifically states the time and location for a given behaviour, habit stacking has the time and location built into it. When and where you choose to insert a habit in your daily routine can make a big difference. This is key. So if you're someone who has children or your mornings are generally really chaotic and then you decide you want to go for a 20-minute run every morning, it's not going to happen. It's super unrealistic. And that's where we can use SMART goals into play with our habits. So specific, measurable, attainable, realistic and time-driven goals towards your habits. So that's important to consider when you want to create a successful habit. Your cue should also have the same frequency as your desired habits. If you want to do a habit every day, but you stack it on top of a habit that only happens on Monday, it's obviously not a good choice. Habit stacking works best when the cue is highly specific and immediately actionable. Many people select cues that are too vague. This is a big one. I make this mistake myself, he says. When I wanted to start a push-up, my habit stack was when I have a break for lunch, I'll do 10 push-ups. At first glance, it sounded reasonable, but soon I realised the trigger was unclear. Would I do my push-ups before I ate lunch, after lunch? Where would I do them? What if you didn't have a lunch break? And after a few inconsistent days, I changed my habit stack to when I close my laptop for lunch, I will do 10 push-ups next to my desk. So that's a good one. Habits like read more or eat better are worthy because causes are far too vague. I hear so many times, I am going to eat well this week. Okay, well, that's extremely vague. What are you going to eat? What time are you going to eat? What are you going to make? How are you going to make sure you manage to get all your food in? Have you got enough food in from your food shop? Are you going to make sure you write a list? There's so many ways that you could take I'm going to eat well into different contexts. So creating a habit, for example, I always bang on about routine with my meals. So I always make sure I eat around the same time every day, even when I'm off work, just to keep my routine the same, because when I'm in work, it throws me off otherwise. Just keeping everything super consistent is so effective. It says here, the more tightly bound your new habit is to a specific cue, the better the odds are. So for example, I'm going to have my creatine every day with porridge, with my protein powder around the time I usually eat around 7:30 in the morning. If not, it will be somewhere between 7:30 and 8:30. So that's very specific. Oh, that's it. Okay, so If you're someone that wants to start creating a new habit, particularly coming into this new week, you really need to ask yourself what you specifically want to focus on. Another one could be like when you make your bed, link that with something. Another one could be when you're eating dinner, making your breakfast for the next day. Whilst your dinner cooks, start on your breakfast. Or when you get into bed at night, lay out your clothes on the floor. Just little things like that can really make a successful habit. But this is all really interesting information, and there's a lot of support and evidence on James Clear's website, which is all science-based. So he's an amazing person to follow and to read all of his articles, especially around habits. So I hope that was super useful and straight to the point and easy to digest. I'm a big advocate for creating habits. Even trying to remove bad habits. Like I had a really terrible habit when I first started my fitness journey of body checking, and I used to quite literally stand in my mirror and pinch my belly fat every day. That's just instilling such a negative relationship with my body, and I developed a really terrible relationship with my food. Obviously, I mentioned this in the body image webinar, but that was a really terrible habit that I had to break. I broke this by asking for help. I recruited Danny to make sure I wasn't looking in the mirror for too long. I would purposefully organise my clothes so I didn't have to go and look in the mirror too much, because I knew like how my clothes went together. And if I was doing my makeup and my hair, I would quite literally just do my makeup and hair, and then I'd walk away from the mirror. And I haven't really done that since. Don't get me wrong, these bad habits do sometimes creep back in every now and then, but I'm at a really, like a lot of people are at a strong point with themselves and their relationship with their body to turn around and say, this is a bad habit, I'm just doing it because it's a bad habit, let's go. So yeah, breaking bad habits is also a really important one. So replacing that bad habit with a new habit could be really beneficial. But if there's anything else that you want to touch on, for me to touch on around habits or anything like that, please just let me know. I keep thinking I'm saying rabbits. But yeah, definitely go on James Clear's website and read Atomic Habits if you can, or listen to the audiobook. It's super interesting. But I hope this was a little insight in how habit stacking can make a really successful habit stick. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, girlies.